Welcome to the Filmcast review of Backrooms. I'm going to read the plot summary of this movie from IMDb. After a therapist's patient disappears into a dimension beyond reality, she must venture into the unknown to save him, end quote. Backrooms originated on the message board 4chan. I'm reading here from the history of the concept on Wikipedia. Between 2011 and 2018, a photograph of a large carpeted room with fluorescent lights and pale yellow dividing walls circulated on various message boards. And on May of 2019, an anonymous user started a thread on /X, 4chan's paranormal themed board, asking users to post disquieting images that just feel off, accompanying the thread with the photograph. Another user replied to this post, giving the image its name and supplying the first ever description of the Backrooms. This person wrote, again in May 13th, 2019, if you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you, end quote. Now, a young filmmaker by the name of Kane Parsons, username on YouTube, Kane Pixels, then took that concept and made a YouTube movie out of it that you can still find online. It went mega viral. As of this recording, it has around 79 million views.
He taught himself Blender as a teenager.
Blender and After Effects he used to create some of these effects. And then went on to make an entire web series based off it, all of which is very successful. And then, of course, made it into a film. And now we have Backrooms, the movie, out in theaters right now. Massively successful. Around $82 million opening. A24's greatest opening of all time.
And that poor original poster got no credit.
I mean, can you imagine how pissed you would be if you were that guy?
It's rough, buddy.
Yeah. Like that guy, anonymous user on 4chan, he's not getting any royalties. He's not even getting a freaking finder's fee.
No A24 deal for him.
That's why instead of, posting your idea, you mail it to yourself. And then you are copyrighted. I'm joking.
Good one.
That was the old. You have to be an old to remember that little trick that people used to tell.
I think this is a really strong argument for not posting on 4chan, though. So
there's a lot of reasons not to do that.
Yeah, this is the number one reason, so you're not cheated out of payment for your original ideas. Anyway, all that said, Backrooms is now out in theaters. People have a chance to watch it. Lots of people are. The question for us today here on the Filmcast is the movie any good? Devindra Hardawar, what do you think of Backrooms?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid horror movie, but it's really the horror side of it that is most successful. I saw that Backrooms short when Kane Parsons put it up, I was 2022. And you can see he is, with all his work since then, he has been honing the idea of tension, how to build up a scare, how to keep an audience enraptured with the space and how to pursue a vibe and things like that. I think the scarier bits of this movie, where you're actually in the back rooms exploring things, it gets that perfectly. This is a guy who has this talent, and he, he's just getting better at it. So I think it's a good sign that he is a talented horror film director. He'll get better in the future. I've seen big budget horror movies with far less skill when it comes to producing scares and things like this. I'm thinking the most recent Scream movie. That being said, I don't really care about any of the humans in this movie. It is very much, it feels this is a freshman feature film. He doesn't understand characters fully. I believe they got in a co-writer, Will Sudik, to work on the screenplay with him, and he's worked on Homeland and Westworld and things like that. But I don't. The characters are just the worst things you see in horror these days. It's one guy is just very divorced man with trauma. And the other, his therapist is, a clinical doctor with trauma. It's a very, these are not fully fleshed out people. They're not real human beings, but the mood this movie creates, the kind of images it evokes, like there's some really skillful stuff here. I love the fact that they were actually able to make the Backrooms, because I believe for the older stuff, like it was just the blender renders, and then he's had some like live action footage around it. So it was, you could kind of tell like just a 3D space before, but now having the money to make some of those spaces and having a human actor trying to like, I don't know, work through those environments too. Chiwetel Ejiofor this movie doesn't give him much to work with, but also it's still Chiwetel Ejiofor. He can still like sell a really bad and thin script, and Renata Reinsve is great as well. So I wish there was more for the humans to do. I like these actors. It is wild, like who they were able to get in this movie. Mark Duplass is in this movie. Like there's a lot of things going on here, but the script doesn't really live up to like the potential of this idea. It's still a good time though. I saw it in a sold out screening with teens, and they were every flinch of the camera, every like time they were like looking patiently waiting for something to move in a corner somewhere, they were freaking out. It was great. And that reminds me of like the simple things that work in horror, the simple things, not a CG monster like in The Burrow. So yeah, I think overall this is a solid horror movie, just could be better. And Kane Parsons has a bright future ahead of him.
Jeff Kanata, your thoughts on Backrooms?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts on Backrooms are best summed up in the form of a limerick.
Well, let's hear it, Jeff.
I won't say that young folks are crazy. But if you want to get lost in some mazy supernatural shit, for me, this ain't it. Read Susanna Clark's Piranesi.
Oh, nice. Nice, Jeff. I like that.
I could not help but think of that phenomenal novel, Piranesi. If you have not read it, it is incredible. It does everything this movie does way better. And perhaps part of the reason that I could not get it out of my head watching this is that I listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Chiwetel Ejiofor.
What?
Yeah.
He loves these spaces.
It's one of the best audio narrations I have ever heard in my life. It is, even if you've already read it as a book, I would recommend listening to the audio narration because it's incredible. Anyway, highly recommend Piranesi. It does everything this movie does better, in my opinion. I agree with Devindra that the vibes this movie makes are fun. The visual of the no clip world where, a chair is stuck in the ground because it clipped through the geometry. I always love when a horror movie takes something that is not inherently scary, like a brightly lit room. Like, horror thrives in the dark, right? Let's make something brightly lit scary. That's funny. I loved when The Ring made a horse scary. It's like, horses are beautiful, majestic, lovely animals.
Horses are scary.
Well,
sorry.
Anyway, I always like it when
one bite, you're out. Yeah.
One bite.
They are
Don't let that
enormous
horse bite
animals. You spook a horse, you can not walk anymore. Right?
I actually agree with Devindra that I'm scared.
They're
of horses.
huge.
But yes, Jeff,
Okay,
your
all
point
right,
stands.
sorry.
Your point
Never
stands.
mind.
Your point stands.
I had no idea I was hitting a nerve with the
Yes.
horse fear.
Devindra and I are big
Jeff,
horsophobia
you're a tall
sufferers
man.
here.
Maybe you feel less threatened by being near a horse, but as somebody under 6 feet, that's a large animal.
All right.
Could hurt you easily.
I apologize. The point I was trying to make is that I like the movie. This movie takes, a brightly lit space and makes it creepy, makes it spooky. I think that's cool. I think the way the movie combines found footage with not found footage, with traditional, third person narrative filmmaking is clever and works well. There's a lot of really interesting visual styling here. I think the performances are good, but I also agree. I think this movie is not very good. And other than those, just the vibes, like it has interesting vibes, but as a film, it is, I think, bad. I don't think this movie has a second act. It has a first act and a third act, but there's no second act. It yada, yada, yadas the second act, which is wild to me. Like the most interesting stuff, and we can get to it in spoilers. I can be more specific, but the most interesting stuff is completely skipped over, and we're just left to assume what may have happened in the second act. And the end is a complete disaster for me. I think it is. It just goes off the rails, and it doesn't know what it's trying to say. It doesn't. I don't think it has a point of view. It is muddled and weird, and I think intentionally weird, but it's trying to be profound in a way that it can't quite achieve.
Yeah.
We all live in loops. That's my idea.
Yeah, it's pat. I think it is, I don't wish to be unfair or condescending, but it does feel rather immature. And it comes from a filmmaker that is not particularly mature. So I don't mean to be flip or unfair in any way, but to me, like the movie is very shallow. And again, that does not to say that there isn't some fun to be had with it. I think there are these really cool moments, these cool visuals, this aesthetic that works. Like the idea, like we all have been in that weird part of the JCPenney's that, you're not supposed to be in, or like you're waiting for somebody and it's empty and you're like, what? This is weird. The strip mall that there's a place that got closed down. And like all these things are they're touchstones of the, sort of postmodern, late stage capitalistic life that we've all lived, that like it is part of our DNA. It is under our skin, and it works. Like making that, exaggerating the creepiness of those spaces works, but I don't think this as a film works at all. And it's a shame because the talent involved is great. I love Renee. How do you pronounce her last name?
Renata Reinsve, I think.
Renata Reinsve. She is awesome. I love. I fell in love with her with the worst person in the world.
Yeah,
such a great movie. I know I didn't care for sentimental value, but I still loved her in it, and I think she's awesome. And Chiwetel Ejiofor is one of my favorite actors. He's fantastic. But again, there are these this trope that is I've seen before of the liminal space that is expansive, that you can get lost in, that someone exploring it, and there are other things that do it much, much better. Again, Piranesi would be my pick if you're looking for something like that. It is excellent. Like one of the best books I've ever read.
House of Leaves is very similar to this.
House of Leaves, exactly.
No.
Yes.
I gotta say, we're old guys, because I think I agree with both of you pretty much exactly. So
That's
let's
not
start
being
with
old. It's just, what makes a good movie too. So. You're not a teenager,
which is what the old people thought that they always knew when
Yep.
the new up and comers came up with their stuff. I mean, look, let's start with some of the positive things. I think that the stuff that takes place in the back rooms is sufficiently creepy, and the found footage I think is excellent. I love found footage movies, and I love whenever I'm watching found footage. There's a couple of components of found footage that I really appreciate. Number one, there's always this meta component of found footage. How are you as the viewer watching this footage? Like, how did the footage get to you, right? Like, it was found somewhere by who, when was that, like, in what condition, and so forth. And so the viewer is always like interpolating their version of events onto the found footage in many movies. And that's something that I really appreciate. And that's something you kind of get with this as well. The other thing is that the found footage often plays with the roughness of the fidelity of the medium. The fact that it's a physical camera. Typically, when you're watching a movie, there is no concept that there's a physical object where the camera is, right? You are just kind of this like omniscient, omnipresent creature that's watching the movie. Whereas with found footage, it's a physical camera, like that's acknowledged. And the way that they play with that, I think, is really great. Like at some points, the person like puts down the camera who's holding it, and then like intervenes in like events on screen that it would make sense for them to do.
Real Blair Witch moments there. Gave me those vibes again. Yeah,
but Blair Witch style. So I thought the found footage stuff was great. Of course, it's only like 15 minutes of the movie. Like it's not like a huge part of the movie. But
I'm glad of that too, because the movie starts with found footage.
Yes.
And having no idea what the movie really was going to be, as I want to do. I was worried that we were going to be in this the whole time, and I was very glad that we weren't. I thought the movie worked ping-ponging between those two styles.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. So look, I'm going to give a massive ass caveat / preamble here and say, number one, if you like the movie and got a lot out of it, that's awesome. And also say that, in my opinion, for a movie to be great, it should be able to function on its own. It should be. You shouldn't need to have read all the lore and seen all the videos of the Backrooms and the whole series and understand.
I don't think you really need to.
I have gotten comments already on my posts I've made about the reason you don't like it is because you haven't seen all the Backrooms.
It's the same argument as anything, right? You haven't read all the comics. You haven't read all the books.
That's what I'm saying.
Whatever.
That's what I'm saying. In my opinion, I think the movie should be able to stand on its own. And in my opinion, this movie doesn't fully stand on its own because I think the characters are underwritten. I don't know about if it's missing Act 2, but it's definitely missing an act, Jeff. I'd agree with that. It's missing an Act
motivations, 2 or 3. Inner lives.
Yeah.
It's
missing an Act 2 or 3. And I think that the movie, I'll just say this, I'm going to be very vague and then we can get more into this in spoilers. It tries to explain a little bit what's going on with the Backrooms. And I will just say, in my opinion, that explanation is woefully inadequate. I got to that part of the movie.
That's fine. I'm glad it stopped.
I'm like,
we'll talk about that.
That's it. Yeah. That was the explanation. Because in my opinion, what they used to explain it, and then comparing it with what came before, it doesn't make any that does not equal that, in my opinion. That does not make any sense to me.
Well, we'll talk about that in spoilers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
It's a total mess, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so I think it's just it doesn't work on a fundamental. You need to the ideal thing, right, when you're watching a movie like this is you get to the part where they kind of try to clarify what's happening, and then you're like, oh, that's what that was.
Because that successfully has happened in most movies, right? That's how we felt about The Village. That's how we felt about so many.
I think are you being sarcastic? I can't tell.
I'm being sarcastic because most movies fail at this. The whole point of the Backrooms is that it is your mind. It is what you don't see. It's your own feeling about it that's kind of building it. So we'll talk about this in spoilers, like I am saying.
Well, let's get to spoilers. But suffice to say, I thought that despite having from what I can tell, extremely realistic therapy sequences.
Oh yeah.
That the way that the relationship between the characters plays out, in my opinion, is pretty unsatisfying. And I found the explanation of the Backrooms to be not convincing for what was shown to us prior to this point. And so I found it to be overall a not great experience. Having said all that, agreed with you. I land in the same place as you, Devindra, where I think Kane Parsons is clearly extremely talented. Yeah. And the biggest issues I have with this film are on a script level. They're not with the direction or the filmmaking. It's on the script level. Even the direction of the actors, I think, is great. I think they both do a wonderful job. And so, so I think really it's the script that has let this movie down. And as a result, I was not a big fan of this film at all. All that said, let's get to spoilers for Backrooms starting now. All right. So let's talk about spoilers, right? So Devindra, why don't you explain what your understanding was of what's going on in the Backrooms?
You cannot explain this. The minute you attempt to explain unreality, you fail. So I kind of like that at the end, all we get is just Mark Duplass saying, we were an MRI company. Now we're not. And now we're just doing this thing. It leaves room for you to fill in the blanks and let you try to make the leaps about what could be happening. Because we don't know what's happening there. We still don't know, but there is a company that is aware that this is happening. I think my favorite thing about this movie is it gets the idea of people confronting unreality. It's everything I've known about physics, about the world or whatever is breaking apart in front of me. And that is kind of interesting. So Chiwetel Ejiofor did that really, really well. I love him when he goes a little stir crazy. And Mark Duplass is just this is what we do. We're a company that explores this thing. So it was enough for me. If they had gone an inch further and started being yes, we ran these experiments and it ripped a hole in the space-time continuum or something, kills the magic. Sorry.
No, that's not what I was looking for at all.
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't looking for, you know, the
Yeah.
the scientific explanation. I was
I
looking
would
for.
argue the scientific explanation went way too far in the thing. Like,
yeah.
it is completely implausible to me that the explanation that they give for what we actually see in the film.
Implausible?
It's just nonsense in my opinion. It's like,
This is all nonsense. We're going around like rooms that don't make sense, and they have memories of reality, and it's all nonsense.
Why try to give it a scientific explanation? Like that's my
all
issue.
He said is we were an MRI company. Now we're not.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair enough. But they also try to explain like what it is you see manifested in the rooms and so on.
The memories of reality,
the memories, and you know the parts of yourself that you don't talk about at parties and stuff. And I just think that what they give us in the film does not rise to the level that makes sense, in my opinion. I don't hear that explanation and then see what we saw in the film and then be like, oh yeah, that all adds up to me. That all like
Agreed.
equals one thing equals the other thing.
Is Renata in Chiwetel's mind? Like, does he?
No,
own
it is
this
a physical.
He got to make this back room,
but then you see her like monster version at the end as well, and so it's like it's her Backrooms is in there too, and so
where I said the second act is missing, it feels like we are, and it's wild to me that on IMDb it says after a therapist patient disappears. Like, it's not, the movie is not told from the therapist's point of view.
Not at all.
The movie is told from Chiwetel Ejiofor's point of view.
Yep.
At a certain point, we just skip over his turn. Like the second act moment where he turns from relatable everyman who is encountered something supernatural to now he's the architect of his own madness. It's just not in the movie. We literally go from I'm exploring to an incredible sequence where he brings his two assistants in and they're trying to figure it out.
That was awesome. I thought that was a great sequence.
So amazing.
Great sequence.
Immediately after that,
yeah,
we have just lost a huge chunk of time. That is, I think, the most interesting stuff of the story. Like, what I want to know how Chiwetel Ejiofor goes from the guy that we've been hanging out with to the monster that is now sort of kind of in control and comfortable there and, you know, like knows everything. Like that's the interesting bit. We don't see it. And I think
I would push back a little there too, because it's like, I think that is an interesting twist to set up the character like this and to turn him into Colonel Kurtz at the end. Right. But if the movie had done a better job of setting it up, right, of making him feel more like a lived character rather than very divorced guy, and his making his therapist feel like she had childhood trauma because her mom was kind of a shut-in too, and like that has affected her somehow. Those are broad sketches of characters. I do kind of like if those were written better. The idea of him, we lose him. Did he die? Whatever. No, he's back in the third act, and he's mad. He's just completely drunk the Kool-Aid of like whatever is going on here. It could work, but I agree with you, Jeff. Something else. They needed something more for it to really work like this. Yeah,
I agree. It could have worked.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me.
It didn't. Yeah. I feel that. I do want to say before we run out of time, like it is interesting. You could write like a whole sociological paper or thesis about like why do the youngs find this particular thing so interesting too? Like this is also the generation that has made The Office like their comfort viewing. It's like a yearning for a world. Like it was our world. It's like the thing we grew up with. Like you would have an office job. You grew up to be like Dilbert or something. But by the time these kids are growing up, like those jobs are kind of disappearing. The economy is kind of falling apart. Like the sort of like reality that we had built for ourselves in the 80s and 90s is essentially falling apart. So it's fascinating to me seeing these like Backrooms are essentially old decrepit office buildings, sometimes malls. You see a lot of photos of malls as liminal spaces. And honestly, right now, if you go to a mall, go to your local mall, it's going to feel like the Backrooms because 90% of the stores are gone. If it's still open, it's probably a dead mall. And there is something about the collapse of our society too that is kind of like frightening. Just fascinating. It's fascinating to me to see what the kids are really into now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, to be fair, I think Devindra is right that a lot of malls have gone out of business, and that has been very sad. There are still a bunch of malls in America that are thriving, but we have lost a ton of malls, and that is no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Devindra, that there is something like, if we really try to read into this, right? If we really try to read into this, there is perhaps like not even a longing necessarily, but certainly like a fascination with this concept, offices and malls as like this third space that is largely going away and vanishing, and like the echoes of a life that Gen Z and Gen Alpha will probably never experience, or will
They'll
have a
hear
much
their
harder
parents
time
talk about it.
right?
They'll see it in movies, but they will never have that.
It's a safe, predictable thing that was always, like you said, promised to them, that is now just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Right,
is breaking, and I think that is the metaphor made real. Right in this movie is literally the thing that's supposed to be the simplest thing that's supposed to make the most sense, all of a sudden does not. You know, the chair breaks through the floor. The room is shaped weirdly. All the stuff that's supposed to be simple is now mind-boggling and weird. And I think that is not hard metaphor to parse, right? I think it's very, you're supposed to do better than your parents. You're supposed to get that job, that safe place. You're supposed to go to the 9 to 5, and just all of that has broken down in modern times. And
also, it's fascinating that they're the ones going back to theaters too, because that is like the one remnant, if we have of that before time. We still have theaters, we still have multiplexes. A lot of them are shutting down. They're not doing very well, but it is like that one space you can still go to and hang out with your friends on a Friday night or something.
But that's why I wish this movie did a better job of having some substance, to be like, if it really dug into that. And like you said, Devindra, these are, sort of stock characters that are just plugged into this really interesting space. But if the characters themselves had more meat on the bone, and there had been some attempt to dig into that idea, or any idea, frankly, I think the movie could have really been special.
I think you're supposed to have this big, Chiwetel Ejiofor's character's big moment comes at the end when he talks to his pirate version of himself and says, "It's okay, we don't have to change," and I think that's supposed to be this big revelatory moment. It's not supposed to be a victorious moment by any means, right? But it's supposed to be kind of like his character's big moment. And I don't think the movie did a good job of building up to that moment. I don't think that when that moment comes, that you feel any kind of emotional catharsis at all about what that character is going through. And I think, again, it's largely a result of the writing, not the acting, which I think, as we've discussed, he does as good of a job as he humanly can with this material, but the material is just too thin, in my opinion.
I love Chiwetel Ejiofor so much. Like the man, Oscar winner, but he can play a space ninja on the Firefly movie. He can do this. He can do anything.
He can do anything. He's so good. Yeah.
I also wonder if there's anything to be made about the fact that in Obsession, and also this one, like the primary meeting place for the characters is in a retail, like kind of a rundown retail space.
Sure.
Maybe just because it's cinematic and relatively easy to get, and that's why they did it that way. But like, basically, like, these people aren't knowledge workers, and I'm curious, like, it probably wouldn't have been too difficult to make them that, like they're not like going into an office with like desks and computers and stuff.
It's about that idea. It's about not being the knowledge worker, right? It's about like being in a place where maybe you don't want to be. He doesn't want Chiwetel Ejiofor's character does not want to be here. Although I don't understand the line between I want to be an architect and now I'm the owner of a shitty discount furniture store. I don't understand how that happened.
Yeah,
please tell me.
It doesn't make much sense.
You could be a manager for one. You don't have to own it.
I am an architect. I just dress up like a pirate and own this small business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a lot of strange ideas in these movies, like that that a small music shop could employ 4 young individuals at once, and
they're getting
the
paid
same
like
shift,
shit too.
They're getting
paid like shit, so whatever. They're all making $6 an hour or something.
Yeah. But I guess that place must be hopping. Anyway, so I do think it's worth noting kind of what these movies are, what vision of the American economy these movies might have, because I think some part of it is, the vision that these young people who are directing these movies have of the American economy.
I mean, it's rough. I don't know if you guys, like Jeff, I know you've had retail jobs. Dave, I don't know if you have.
Absolutely. My parents used to own a Chinese restaurant, and I used to run the cashier.
You ran the cashier, so it's like
they employed thing you do before you're quote in one shift.
yeah. And like that's the thing. That's the most unrealistic, is because like my dad would just leave me in charge alone, to run this institution. And so, anyway, so.
I just wish the movie was better. I just wish it was better.
His shorts are great. Like go watch some of the shorts. This dude did he made like an Attack on Titan history, like a series of shorts about the history of the world of Attack on Titan, which is kind of cool too. Like there's cool stuff up there. Go watch his YouTube channel. Yeah.
I know it's annoying to everybody, but I'm going to say one more time, read Piranesi, because it has everything that it is a person in a weird, unmappable place trying to figure it out. And it actually adds up to something. And it adds up to something, I think, really powerful. And that's what this movie could have done, and I don't think achieves. But you can have that experience if you're intrigued by this kind of concept. I highly recommend that book, and particularly the audiobook.
All right. Well, at the end of the day, despite our mixed feelings about Backrooms, it is extremely impressive that Kane Parsons made a movie.
Wow.
And he obviously has a very bright future ahead of him. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.